Okay, a little Harley B intuitive here. We had to heat up our pipe here a little bit. Our ports tend to be a little bit lower and the top of the head a little bit higher, sometimes by a quarter. I think it's almost a quarter of an inch. Okay, it's not much, but it's a difference. Whereas the exhaust may not fit on the motor that you get from me versus where your stuff fit before. So I just wanted to make people understand that the kit engines are a little bit different. They're a little bit smaller. Some of the tolerances, it's hard to tell here on the video for me, about a quarter of an inch here and an eighth of an inch there. But there is a difference. As you can see, our factory Econo heads here has an angle porting, and the port faces the exhaust. Some guys tend to switch this around. It does make a difference. You need people to learn to start playing with things and learning about how and why with the assemblies. The other thing is, I don't know if this bike was laying upside down in the pig pen or with the pigs. These carburetors are a real hard time to reinstall them. It has this plastic fitting. Make sure you pry this open, and it does tend to go back closed together. There's a little slot there, and this squeezes. That slot right there, stick a screwdriver in it and pry that open before you try to get that carburetor off. Because if this comes off, this plastic inner liner here comes off with that, you're screwed. It's hard. Sometimes they tear too. So when you go to take your bike apart, spread this and try to leave that on the intake manifold. And then before you put it back on again, spread it again. This is all part of the motorsports business. As you can hear some of our equipment running there, and this is all part of America, is learning how to do things properly. And like I said, I think YouTube is one of the most useful tools that you could put in your toolbox. That's another thing is I wanted to show you that I use a lot of really high-tech stuff that comes out, like these T-wrenches come in a set. I have a whole set of them on the workbench. There's just stuff that the rookie's not going to have, and you're not going to have the advantage of getting things snug and tight enough without the proper amount of torque. Some of this stuff has a torque spec. You want about 25, 35 pounds of foot-pounds is really all you want, and you can just do that with your hand or your wrist. Some people want to get a real long lever, and that's only cast aluminum. It's real cheap, and when it strips, you have to have it remachined. Or you have to have some of the epoxy fillers and stuff like we use. And they're not cheap. They're $40 and $50 a tube. They're not $7.99 down at AutoZone, the stuff that we use. What we use are 3M products. You can buy it, but most of the time you have to get it at automotive, like body stores and different things like that. It's stuff that'll stand up to heat stress, and a lot of times it takes overnight to dry. There's some new stuff on the market. I just used it. It's not bad. It takes about an hour to dry, and you can drill it and tap it, and it's just as hard as the steel around it, or the aluminum. And I like the product, but I don't like the price at $55. And hence some of it will go to hell before I get to use all of it, because I don't make all that many screw-ups. But with my trucks and my business and breaking things, I mean, it's still, most of the product's going to go to waste. They should make it in smaller quantities for us consumers like me. But a lot of the stuff with the DEP and EPA and all the rules, they sell to me because I'm a commercial business and I'm licensed. Certain areas in California, if you're just a hobbyist or something, you may not be able to get those products without a license. You're going to have to go through somebody that does have a license. And now with all this terrorism stuff going on, they may not want to sell it to you, and I feel sorry for people. But nobody likes the price tag of some of this stuff. This started out as a hobby and it grew into a monster. I think it's worse than drugs, but it's an addiction. And they're a nice little, like I said, it's a nice little piece. I put a used fuel tank on because his fuel tank was smashed, and I put the bike back together. Oh, we got to get a seat because my ass will never fit on that post. I don't like those things. So I'm going to work on the seat now before we try to fire this up and tighten the carburetor all down. And the other thing I suggest is, once you have it all together, go over everything. You think it's tight? Maybe it's not. Maybe you forgot something. So once again, go over everything you did. Trim off As you can see, the neat job I did. People ask me how I do such a neat job. I cut my wires to length. I try to leave a little bit of slack, like I did on this on the kill switch wire. It's not such a slick thing, but it's not contacting anything, and it's not going to hurt anything. But I try to do a nice, neat job, and looks professional. And that's what you'd expect for people that worked on $50 million fighter planes. We're very particular animals when it comes to our work and our habits, and we're very habitual. It's one thing to pick up a mechanic like that. I've applied for work here in northeastern Pennsylvania. First of all, they don't want to pay me anything. Then they want me to move a $50,000 toolbox in their shop, and they want to pay me $10, $11 an hour. They can kiss my fat hillbilly dick. It ain't going to happen. You want to pay $25, $30 an hour and a sign-on bonus for a competent mechanic? That's fine. That's great. And he got it running. But anyway, this is what mechanics is about. And sorry we have to do it in the backyard, but we have to eat too. And we'll catch up on this. Let's get this puppy running. We still got daylight left.